Hey, it's Faith, and welcome to Popping the Tab, the show where I crack open all of life's juicy little details. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Popping the Tab. It is our first ever episode, and I am so excited to get started. I'm your host, Faith Yoho, and currently I'm a junior in college in West Virginia. So I'm really in the thick of trying to figure out my life and what I want to do after school. So what we're going to talk about today sneaks up on me a lot. But before we begin, I just want to say that though this show is being published on a Wednesday, my normal posting schedule will be every Monday. So mark your calendars, turn on your notifications because you don't want to miss an episode. I've decided to kick the show off with a topic that I struggle with, and I think a lot of you may struggle with as well, imposter syndrome. So let's crack open our bevs, and today I'll be drinking a fluffy cherry Coke, which if you don't know what that is, it's where you put marshmallow fluff around the inside of the cup. It's very celebratory for our inaugural episode, so let's get started. Imposter syndrome. It feels like kind of a big topic to talk about. And it feels like it's also kind of a buzzword right now on social media and in motivational speeches. But I mean, it's for a good reason. It's relatable, right? I know that I often feel like I'm just playing a part that I haven't actually earned. And maybe you feel the same. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been fortunate enough to experience some really cool opportunities in college. I've gotten to present research at a conference in Boston. I've gotten to travel for golf because I'm a student athlete. I got a job this summer that allowed me to live in New York City for 3 months. And later this month, I'm actually going on a networking trip to DC. And while these are so incredibly amazing opportunities that I'm so grateful for, while I'm trying to enjoy them and make the most out of them, there's this nagging voice in the back of my head that's like, you haven't earned this. What did you do to get here? And I often feel like everyone else who's on these opportunities with me think the same thing about me. And they're all laughing, and it's a big joke to them that I was only invited to be the punchline because I haven't earned it. And that there's always someone more deserving. But in this early stage of adulthood, it's really hard for me to recognize that I'm not a kid anymore, and I actually am qualified for these things, have put in hard work in order to achieve these things. And if you can relate to any of these feelings, then this episode is going to be the perfect one for you, I promise. Now, let's unpack what this feels like in our early 20s. I mean, this is a time when so many of us are stepping into new roles. We're no longer teenagers. We're finally starting to feel like adults, maybe. And everything feels new and a little scary. We're starting college, applying to jobs, navigating adult relationships. It can be a little overwhelming. Before my sophomore year of college, I worked a job at a golf course down in Florida. And I had a coworker who was a gym teacher at a high school nearby. And we were introducing ourselves to our campers. They were young. And I just kept saying, every time I would introduce myself, would just keep saying, oh, I play college golf, but it's at a really small school in West Virginia. Just kind of brushing it off. And one day she stopped me on our way out to our cars after we clocked out and said, Faith, you need to stop brushing off the fact that you're a collegiate athlete. That's really cool. And these kids look up to that, and that's what they want to be. She was like, stop saying that it's just a really small school and brushing it off, because then they're going to think that it's just something to be brushed off and we're supposed to be role models for them. And she pretty much told me to be proud of my accomplishments because it is an accomplishment. She was like, you've worked really hard to get there. And that's really stuck with me for the past couple of years because I've noticed that I do kind of brush myself off. Like, oh, I did this, but blah, 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 or someone else did this. And she told me to stop and to own what I'm doing and that it'll set me up for a lot more success. And I definitely see imposter syndrome creeping up on me every time I'm on social media. because everyone's constantly showcasing their seemingly perfect lives. Emphasis on seemingly, though, because it's never actually perfect. And it's really easy for us to want to compare ourselves to others. I mean, have you ever found yourself scrolling through Instagram, watching your friends' perfect vacations or exciting career milestones and thought, wow, they really have it all figured out? Meanwhile, you're sitting there wondering if you even chose the right major, or if you should be applying for that job you're terrified of. Or, hey, the dining hall sucked today, what am I going to eat for dinner? They don't seem like big adult issues, do they? But it can be tough. I mean, I know that recently I've hit this particular wall a lot. During the summer, so many of my college friends and sorority sisters have graduated, moved on to incredible adult jobs, have gotten engaged. I'm not kidding. I think at least 6 of my sorority sisters got engaged over the summer, super close together. One just posted that she got engaged yesterday, and I'm so happy for them. They're even having kids. And even though I know I'm not in the same stage of life or want those things right now, definitely don't want kids, it still makes me feel like I'm behind in life and that what I'm doing isn't adult enough and that I need to catch up. And even though I don't have a boyfriend, I'm suddenly wondering when I'm going to get engaged. Like, girl, it's not happening anytime soon, and that's fine. We're allowed to be on our own timelines. So why does this happen? Imposter syndrome often stems from a beautiful combination of societal pressures, perfectionism, and our own internalized beliefs about success and failure. I know as a kid, everyone always said, Faith, you're so type A. You can't control everything. You can't have everything planned. Throw those plans away. Like, it's not going to happen like that. And I was always kind of like, no, like, this is the plan. This is how my life's going to go. And I'm sure if any of them are listening, they're all rolling their eyes saying that they told me so. Because I think that's what happens early, like later in life, when imposter syndrome starts to set in, is because we thought we had it all planned. And when things aren't going the way we thought they were going to go, then it gets a little tricky and it makes us feel like we're failing a little bit. I mean, in our early 20s, we're still learning about ourselves. I mean, our brains aren't even fully developed yet. And we're still learning about our capabilities. But there's this pressure to have everything sorted out. Like, we're supposed to have our careers, our relationships, and even our life goals just completely mapped out right now. But newsflash, we usually don't. I mean, I know that I don't have everything figured out right now. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do this next summer as a job, or how I'm going to afford to live after college, or what I'm going to do with my degree. It's all very, very stressful. But guess what? I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's okay to not have it all figured out. In fact, that's actually part of the journey. Embracing uncertainty can actually lead to growth and new opportunities. And more often than not, those opportunities are so fun. My whole life, I thought I wanted to go to law school because my mom went to law school and I wanted to be just like my mom. And then I started really getting into my major, which is communication. And I really wanted to do something in that field. So I didn't want to go to law school anymore. And I had no clue what I wanted to do. And I felt so lost. And someone approached me and said that I should apply for my school's 5-year MBA program. And I thought about it for a couple days and just decided I was going to do it. I was going to apply. It wasn't going to cost me any more money than what I'm already paying. Great. So I kind of on a whim applied and I got in, and now I'm in my MBA classes, but I'm not a business major. And it's really hard sometimes to sit in a class with people who are business majors and have been taught these fundamental concepts while I'm trying to learn them while taking the master's class. And there's been a few times where I called my mom and said I wanted to quit. And she told me, don't you dare. Nothing easy is worth getting. Nothing good is going to be easy to get. It's always going to be hard. And I really listened to that and I've stuck with it. And I'm so happy that I am sticking with it. But it really does bring up that imposter syndrome sometimes. Like, what am I doing here? But we have to learn kind of how to navigate that. And that's what we're going to talk about here after a little break. everyone, and welcome back to Popping the Tap. I hope you had a lovely little 30-second break or however long that was. But now we're going to talk about some tips to combat those feelings of self-doubt and imposter syndrome because they can be hard to deal with. And though I'm no professional, I have some little things that I do for myself or that I've been told to do that I've noticed do help me combat those really negative thoughts. So first off, practicing self-compassion. I'm going to be totally transparent. I can be so much better than this, and I need to implement this more than I do. But you just need to be kind to yourself and remember that everyone has their struggles and that no one has it all together. And when you catch yourself thinking, I don't belong here, why am I here? What did I do to get here? Just try flipping the script and remind yourself of your accomplishments. You've worked hard to get where you are, and you definitely deserve to be there. And trust me, you wouldn't be where you are, and no one would have let you be where you are if someone didn't see that you had done something that earned it. So remind yourself of that. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, ground yourself, and remind yourself that you're a hard worker and you are qualified. And I think we all can do a little bit better at practicing compassion to ourselves and being a little kinder to ourselves. And that might help us think a little bit more positively about our own achievements and goals. My next step, which also admittedly I need to be so much better at. I promise, guys, I'm not trying to sit here and tell you things that I don't implement. I definitely try to implement these things, but sometimes it's hard. And that's part of growing up and being an adult, is that sometimes things get hard. And I definitely feel like I'm looking in a mirror saying, you need to be doing this, Faith. And it's definitely easier to tell other people what you think will help them, but not always taking your own advice. So I'm trying to implement these just the same as you guys are. But you can try setting some routines for yourself. I know this may sound silly, and maybe setting routines you think have nothing to do with your imposter syndrome, but I think they do. Trust me. Making your bed in the morning, doing your laundry, getting ahead of your assignments, or whatever else you have to do can actually start to trick your brain into thinking that your life is so put together. Even though it might not be. It might be a mess. But having those set routines, eventually the longer that you carry them out, you'll actually start to feel like you're put together and everything's tied up in a neat little bow. And you'll start believing it. I know personally, when I write out my little Post-it notes, I feel so adult when I check all of my to-do lists off and I've accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish for the day. And when you start to do that, then that makes you think that you are worthy of what you're getting because you're putting that work in and you're seeing it written out in front of you. And maybe this wouldn't help you, but personally, it helps me when I practice it. So maybe it'll help you too. The next thing that you can do is to seek support. Talk to your friends, especially those in a similar stage of life as you are. If they're in college with you or in the same classes, I promise they're going through the same things. My friends and I have had countless conversations about how we feel like we shouldn't actually be there and that someone made a mistake about letting us into whatever class or program we're in, and we're just waiting for them to kick us out. But they're never going to because we've earned it. It's just hard to recognize that you're doing something cool so young, or that you do deserve things that maybe people in your life who are older than you haven't experienced yet. And that's okay. You can talk to your family, a mentor, an advisor, or even a therapist. Go to your school's counseling office or look into online therapy. Sometimes getting to talk to someone with that unbiased lens who really has no clue what's going on in your life besides what you're telling them can be really helpful, and they can give you some professional tips to work through these feelings as well. And you'll likely find that many of the people that you talk to have experienced similar feelings. We're all human, and this is a very human emotion. So sharing these thoughts can help alleviate the burden and make you realize that you're really not alone. And they may even be able to share stories of their own struggles that inspire you to take new paths or try new things in your own life. And they might be able to give you more tips and tricks outside of the ones that I'm giving you right now. And my last little tip for you is to challenge your negative thoughts. Again, I need to be better at this as well. I promise I'm in this with you. We are in this together. This is the Popping the Tab community goals to making us think that we actually deserve what we have. But when that inner critic starts whispering that you're not good enough, or what have you done to be here, confront those thoughts. Ask yourself, what evidence do I have that supports this belief that I'm not good enough? And you're often going to find that the facts don't align with your feelings. And if you keep reminding yourself of your accomplishments and qualifications, you're going to be able to reframe those negative inner voices. Like I said before, if you didn't have the qualifications, they wouldn't have let you in. You got in, you're where you are, you got the job, you got into that school, you're presenting research at that conference. Whatever it is, someone saw something in you that made them think you were qualified enough. So you are, point blank, period. So as we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this. It's okay to feel like an imposter sometimes. Just recognize that it's a feeling, not a fact. Embrace the journey, trust in your abilities, and remember that everyone is just figuring it out as they go along. I can promise you that you're not alone. And I want to thank you for tuning in to our very first episode of Popping the Tab. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend or leave us a review. And of course, I'd love to hear your thoughts on imposter syndrome and what you'd like to talk about next week. You can reach out to me on poppingthetab_pod on Instagram or drop a comment. Until next time, keep living, keep thriving, and being your best selves. Cheers!